1, I will call the Common Council meeting to order. Could we have roll call, please?
Iverson.
Here.
Schatzinger.
Here.
Hanson.
Here.
Gallops.
Here.
Kane.
Here.
Gotsky.
Here.
Sorensen.
Here.
Split.
Here.
We have a quorum.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm Reverend Jeffrey Dodson, pastor at First Congregational Church of Ripon. I invite you to be in prayer with me as I lead this invocation. Gracious God, thank you for the privilege for each of us to be here tonight, no matter how we have arrived, whether in person or virtually. I ask you to bless our gathering this evening as we come together in service to the city of Ripon. The work of our leaders matters. It is good. And our community depends on this good work to which our leaders dedicate themselves. And the voices and input from our community members matters. It is good. And our government depends on the participation and support of those who call Ripon home. And so I ask for faith and trust in one another, gentle hearts, patience and understanding, discernment that leads to good outcomes, respect for all our city officials and staff, and community wisdom. Guide our work and watch over the city we love. I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. All right. This time I'll be looking for a motion for approval of an amended agenda as State Representative John Plummer will not be able to attend to address us this evening.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended agenda for tonight.
I'll second. Been moved by Doug, seconded by Jonathan. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the amended agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Do we have any public comment? Great. Moving right into our agenda items. First tonight we have an urban forestry management plan report. We have Kelly Tuttle from Blue Stem Forestry here to speak to us. If you would like to, she's joining us by Zoom. If you would like to introduce yourself and let us know what you have.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. My name is Kelly Tuttle, and I'm with Blue Stem Forestry Consulting. Adam contracted with me to do a tree inventory and management plan, partially funded through a Wisconsin DNR grant. And I did that, started last summer, finished last fall, and he told me to take about 10 minutes to talk to you about my findings. So I'm going to jump right in. If anyone has any questions, just give me a shout out. So first, let me explain what a tree inventory is. So I looked at all of your street trees, so typically between the sidewalk and the street or along the street right of way. And then I also looked at parks. Barlow Park, Elizabeth Murray, Selfridge, Ceresco, the Wayside, Eagle Park, and Horner Park. So I looked at all of those trees individually, GPS'd them. I believe they're being put on your GIS system currently. Sure. And I looked at a lot of different attributes: species, condition, size, health, all of that. And then at the end of that, I compile all my data and I come up with some recommendations for you. And this was the first time that Ripon had ever done this. And so the findings tend to change as you do it multiple times. But so it was interesting because we've never done it. So I'm going to run through some of my findings, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the bigger concerns and I think issues that you're going to be dealing with. So a total of 2,230 trees, 365 planting sites. So a planting site is just an area on your boulevard where there's space for a tree, but there's not a tree currently growing. So if you want to plant trees, you can pull up that list and you know where to target. And 14 stumps. So a stump would just be an existing stump on a boulevard or in a park. 534 of your trees are in parks, and roughly 1,700 are in your street tree population. As you well know, emerald ash borer is very active in Ripon, and you've been working very hard to remove those trees. So there's remaining in the population 184 ash trees, which is 8.9% of the population. So not terrible, but also still a really big task to take care of. Most of them are already either dead or failing very significantly. There were 12 that I thought could remain in the population if the homeowner wished to preserve those. One of them is already being treated by the homeowner, but really most of them are too far gone. And I broke out those 12 in the database so you can see where those are at. So that's, as you know, already on your radar and is going to have to continue. The other big issue you're dealing with is that you, of course, had your tornado in July of 21, and you're still suffering some after effects from that, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. So the biggest issue you're going to deal with is there's 381 trees that I thought still needed to be removed, largely that ash population. Quite a few still remaining from your storm damage from your tornado. So that's 14.4% of your maintenance needs. A first-time inventory typically averages 3 to 10%, so you're high, but again, because of the ash population. I also look for trees that have dead branches, hangers, that type of problem that would need pruned for a safety reason. You had 109 of these, which is only 4.2% of your population. Typical inventory is 3 to 7. So that was on the low end, and I attribute that low number primarily to the cleanup from the storm damage that you did. I just want to say did an outstanding job on that. So a couple of the other issues that I think you're looking at, which you're well aware of, is overpopulation of any one species. So the general rule of thumb that the DNR has established is not more than 5% of any one species or 10% of any one genera. So, for example, maple would be a genera, sugar maple would be a species within there. So you have 3 genera, or families, you could call it, that were overrepresented. 47% of all of your trees are maple. Most of those are Norway maple. I'm sure you know this. 8.3 ash, which again we know about, and then 5.7% is apple or crabapple, primarily crabapple. Same thing with emerald ash borer. Overpopulation, if you get a single insect that attacks, or fungus or disease that attacks any one species, you can be in a world of hurt. Asian longhorn beetle, I think, is the next insect that we're going to see on our radar. It's coming from the East Coast, much like Dutch elm disease, much like emerald ash borer. They really, really like maple. So not close, but something that is definitely on our radar as foresters. So back to your planting sites. You have 365 planting sites. I don't identify planting sites in parks because that's more of a landscape issue, but I do them on the streets. So that's about 21% of your population could be planted. So it's pretty average. Not bad, not good. Just know that if you want to start a planting campaign, which I know you already do a lot of plantings, you have space, and you can do that for many years to come, I feel like. So any questions so far? I'll keep going. I'm sure Adam gave you the management plan, so I'm kind of just working my way through that. Back to the species issue real quick with the 25% Norway maple, 7% silver maple, sugar, and on an autumn blaze, which is a red maple, are both right around 5 and 6%. Maples too. So it just is. Just be very judicious with your planting of maple trees in the years to come. I don't recommend eliminating them from your planting population, because if you do, cautious. The other, I want to say, anomaly with your population is the size of your trees. So if you do have the management plan, if you turn to page 6, I have a size distribution. And you can see I have your existing size distribution, and then in the middle column is the DBH, which is diameter at breast height. So it's the diameter of the tree measured about 4.5 feet above ground. And then the ideal composition, if we live to large trees. So 27% of your population is 25 inches in diameter and over. So that tree's 2 feet in diameter. So you guys drive your very large sized population. Unfortunately, trees don't live forever. So as trees age, they also tend to fail. So that's part of the reason that your removal rate is so it just is. These things aren't necessarily bad or good. Your streets are beautiful to work on because they're shaded so beautifully. But you do have so one of the biggest issues you're going to be dealing with is the cost and the time needed to manage the trees that we've identified that need help. And after that, to start a routine maintenance program so that you're visiting, I recommend pruning a tree or visiting a tree every 7 years. So your target is to prune a tree once every 7 years. Based on and talking with Adam and Public Works, you can do a lot in-house, a lot more than most communities of your size. So you can deal with most of your trees, removals, pruning in-house up to about 16 and much better than most of my communities of your size that have to contract out a lot more work. So you do all your prunings in-house or under 16 inches, removals under 16 inches, plantings. As you have such large trees that it still results in a large contract cost to finish removing your ash, get rid of the rest of your remaining storm damage or your trees that are. So I think from a budget perspective and from a city of Ripon perspective, no, you can see the budgets in the back that this is a significant cost and a significant time commitment from your crew. And it's going to take a lot of effort. So it just is, but it's a lot. And please feel free to look at the budgets in the back. And I don't know if it's worse to have a bigger time commitment or the cost. They're both just a big hurdle that you're going to have to look at in the next couple of years. So the average cost is around $100,000 in contract costs to get rid of those trees over the next few years. So, and this is one of the reasons Adam had me talk to you, is just to start that conversation and recognize the time commitment and the cost. So, just a few things that I was going to talk about because your removals are so high. And what's causing that. So there's really 3 issues going on, which I've touched on. So your ash, which you drive down as your streets and see are dead. You do have some lingering storm damage. And I put a picture of one of your trees in the management plan. So when that tornado came through, it twisted a lot. It's really, really an interesting twist. And that's why your pruning needs, most of your pruning needs are coming from, is that those are twisted and split. Needs take. It's not something you would have done after, during the initial storm cleanup. So don't worry about that. It happens every time a tree limb gets twisted. But and the other thing is your trees are just getting older, and it's just a fact that they then experience trunk decay or crown decay, root decay, and they start to fail. And it is just a fact. So those are the big 3 contributing factors to your high removal rate. Otherwise, some successes. I think your tree cleanup after that tornado, your overall tree removal was outstanding. I was really, really impressed. The other thing that I really liked, and I talked to a fellow with the downtown committee, and I can't remember his name now. You're planting some really interesting trees downtown. and you're tracking them and seeing what's successful and what's not. And that's wonderful because you need to diversify your forest, and that's really, you're doing it. You're doing a good job with those downtown planning. So that was also just really made me happy to see. So that's kind of it. I think I'm at my 10 minutes that Adam talked about. So any questions about the process, my findings, anything like that? Anything, Adam, you wanted me else to talk about?
I guess I have a question.
Doug's got a question.
Sure.
There's some of the recommended good large selections to replace some of these trees are different kinds of elm trees. Would they be?
Yes.
Would they be resistant to the emerald ash borer?
Elm trees, you mean resistant to Dutch elm disease?
Yeah, there's different ones. So like New Horizon, Cathedral,
Yeah.
Adelaide, American Liberty elms. Are those largely resistant to the emerald?
Well, because they're an elm, they wouldn't get emerald ash borer, but they would get Dutch elm disease, and they are all resistant. So American Liberty elm is a true American elm. The rest are hybrids. So they wouldn't be susceptible to Dutch elm, which only attacks American elms. But American Liberty elm is a true disease resistant, wonderful, wonderful trees.
I'm sorry, I got my trees mixed up with the emerald ash borer. Yeah, okay. You answered my question, though, about the elm trees.
Okay. They're wonderful.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
For the trees
Yeah.
that are recommended for removal, obviously what I'm grateful, all the information, it's pretty clear here that you looked at which ones sort of can be saved, look at which ones can be pruned. So it sounds like with your expertise, there is no saving those, that they do have to be removed, the ones that were recommended. I see you shaking your head. As a city, now that we know which ones need to come down and are perhaps more dangerous, is there a certain level of liability we need to worry about? And that this is why we really do need to now move forward, now that we have the information about
Yes.
these.
Yeah, so in the database, you'll see that I've assigned each tree, like I call it a priority rating. So it's a rating from 0 to 100. So a newly planted tree or a tree in perfect health would be 100%. It's just as if you were being graded on your math test. It's a really handy way to prioritize any activity, but particularly removals and pruning. So a 0 is a dead standing tree, and you'll have them because you had a lot of dead standing ash. Then they're in 5% increments. So 5, 10, 15, 20. After about 20, that's when removals, that's about all you'll see for removals is up to 20. And because it's going to be impossible for you to remove 381 trees in the next month or 6 months, it's going to take you some time. So I've already broken it down over a couple of years, but even within that, if you look at that priority rating, start at your 0s, which are dead standing trees, go to your 5s, go to your 10s, go to your 20s. It's a way that you can responsibly remove trees in a fashion, because no community can afford to do all of that immediately. It just doesn't happen. And liability wise, the law knows that. There's this wonderful book called Trees and the Law, and it goes into the into all of this in depth. But basically, you're held to you need to be responsible, and you need to show that you're working on this in a reasonable and logical manner, and using those priorities, the 0, 5, 10, that's how you do that, is that you start at the 0s, you go to the 5s, you go to the 10s, etc. And that's what, as a community, all communities, that standard they're held to, and the way they work through that process, if that makes sense.
It does, thank you. And then I went to a presentation that was, I believe, done by perhaps UW Extension at one point, and they talked about how this was someone who specializes in sustainability planning for cities, and they talked about trees, and they said the good thing is sometimes you can save money by not removing the stumps of trees, and this is actually where it's the most biodiverse as far as bugs and animals that live in tree stumps. That it's one of the best ways that you can support diversity of or support the environment in your city. The problem is people don't often like the way stumps look. And
Right.
for aesthetic reasons, cities often will not do that. But do you have any examples of cities or any knowledge of, are there things that we could do to save money? And if it does help the environment, in your professional expertise, that could be something to consider and that places are considering?
Yeah, so what I've seen done most frequently is it doesn't happen on city streets unless you have a really, really understanding homeowner. But in parks, I have seen communities leave the trunks of trees. So like remove the branches and things if they're dead and leave the bole of the tree for a few reasons. One, it saves money. You're not grinding a stump, you're not removing that large piece of wood. It also helps reduce wood waste, and you're not trying to dispose of that. It's also really good for wildlife. And so that's primarily why I've seen communities do that in park-like settings, is to leave those standing tree trunks effectively for woodpeckers and birds and that type of thing. It is a good compromise, a way to save money as well as help the environment. It's ugly, it can be ugly, but it is good from a sustainability perspective. And I've seen that done quite a bit actually, and more frequently.
So then bringing it back to our plan, could there be some trees in our plan that were recommended for total removal that we could have a conversation about leaving the trunk?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I would definitely target your park trees. And I'm thinking Barlow Park in particular. It's large that's a beautiful park, but there were clearly areas of it that weren't as heavily used. So I probably wouldn't do that over near the ball fields. But certainly if you're going into the park, to the left of the loop, that area is not heavily used that I saw. And that would be a wonderful spot to do that. So I would just consider the use of the parks and how many of those you want to do. Probably would avoid it on the streets just because I don't think from an aesthetic perspective it's going to be well received. And it precludes replanting if you left it on the street, and ideally you would probably want to replant there.
Right. Well,
Any other questions?
maybe I'll ask one last question about the 12 elm trees that you said were healthy enough. Is there anything we should be doing then as the ash trees, right? The ash.
Yep. I know you meant.
Should we, are those important when we look at the health of those trees, as a country, as humanity? Should we be offering something to really encourage those homeowners to save them? Is that something that is more important than what we may be just thinking about as our city level?
So the reason I selected those 12 trees is because really all of the rest of your ash have already started to die back. And those for some reason had not. So a couple reasons that I thought, even if it's just 12, it does diversify your forest. It also saves you money because you're not removing those 12 trees, right? And it's expensive to remove trees, and it's time consuming for your staff to do it. So that was probably my primary consideration, was if we can treat these trees, even if you do it for 10 years, then you've spread your costs out and you can look at removing those at a later date. But it is a cost saving measure, as a stopgap measure, a short-term measure to save money. And I feel the same way about ash as I do with elm. You come down a street or even in the woods and you see these beautiful American elms. They're still out there. There's still some of them out there. And it's just still really neat to see them. And it's still really neat to see healthy ash. So from a forester's perspective, it's still nice to have ash, even a small percentage of them in your population.
All right. Anyone else have any questions? No. All right. Well, thank you, Kelly, for your time.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome.
All right.
And anyone can email me at any time. Give me a call if you have any questions. I'm happy to happy to talk about it.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Kelly.
You're welcome.
All right, so we will move on then to,
So take a step back.
Oh,
So
go ahead.
I would like us to consider adopting this management plan. Obviously, there's a lot of information. The DNR helped us fund this with a grant. We have all the information online in terms of our forest. As we speak, it's already up. So there is a GIS map with green and blue and red dots. So people can view that on our website. This plan will guide our decisions moving forward in terms of priority rankings for removal and other activities. So as kind of a final capstone, I just would request that this be approved in concept at least. We obviously have a lot of commitment in terms of money to follow through with this. But from an overall management plan and information, I think it's an important piece that we've never really done before. Beginning to manage the forest is in a better way is critical, just based on the storm we had and is the overall data in this report.
You're looking for a motion just to adopt this at a high
Yep.
level, and then contractual stuff would still go out to bid. And
Yep, we'll still do, just it's a recommendation, that's all we're looking for. I mean,
I move to adopt the, let me phrase it, forestry management plan
yep,
for 2023 to 2025.
yep.
I'll second.
any discussion on that motion? Howard?
I'd like to encourage the residents of the city to go online, check this out, as it's not just a city decision, it's also affecting homeowners that have these trees. It's not just all park, city trees and that. Go on, look, and then contact us alderperson or Adam or Mayor Grant and give your opinions regarding this so that we can all move forward in the same direction.
And what I'll just add to that is we have a lot of people that call us and say, please remove my tree, it's dying, it's dead, and we understand that. We now have the data and the information from a forester, an arborist, that will help guide our decisions. So we're not taking down trees prematurely just because somebody wants it taken down. We're going to make the best decision based on the data and everything that has been collected here. So it's not like we want to cut down everybody's tree. Also, we have talked about, we did the kind of a boulevard adoption program where people could have trees planted in their boulevard this past year. So we tried to diversify species already. So we've already kind of worked on some of the recommendations here. But so we'll continue to roll out programs like that to make sure when we're planting a tree, the person wants it there. Because sometimes we plant them and people don't like to rake leaves.
So we're approving this in concept, but there are costs here.
Yeah, that's just recommendations. That's all that is so our goal is to execute this plan over time and in budgets and things, look back to this plan and see if we can fund things. From the concept of adopting it, we're adopting the inventory, we're adopting, the data, the information within with the recommendations from the plan. It doesn't tie us to doing anything necessarily, but we will begin to implement this at a staff level. So that's all I'm asking is that it get adopted and we begin executing it within the means that we have currently budgeted and within the means provided in future budgets.
Got it. Because again, the in-house things, I mean, in some sense, that doesn't have to be in theory, that can be real.
We can try to do this. It's just a
Yeah.
tremendous cost. So it's another thing we add into the annual budget process. It's another thing we add into the operations of the Department of Public Works and contracting. So it's just another thing, sort of like a water master plan that we approved. It doesn't mean we're committing to do the water master plan in its entirety. Most of the things in that plan, just, like a parks master plan. We're going to approve a parks master plan as a concept. Doesn't mean we do everything in it.
So in the future, pieces of that are going to be coming back to the council for review. is what you're
This?
saying.
Well, yeah, I mean, if there's any above and beyond what's already been allocated funding-wise or any programs that need council approval, we will do that. Ultimately, one of the biggest concerns here in my mind is we're approving the inventory, and in that, we are looking at the trees that we need to prioritize. So we're going to follow the plan and the best information we have, instead of just essentially whoever calls and complains about the tree in front of their house, whether it's a dead standing ash or a beautiful, 30-year-old tree that still has another 20, 30 years, we're going to use this. That's the general buy-in we're looking for.
Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the urban forestry management plan, say aye.
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 Opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll move on to item number 2, which is an outdoor open container entertainment event permit application. This one's put forth by Ripon Main Street for the Polka on Ice event held at the Village Green on February 18th.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Been moved by John, seconded by Paige. Any discussion?
I'd like to ask Chief, any problems in the past years? I think it's gone pretty well, but, okay.
I will say I've attended this a number of years. I love it. I do like that when someone shows up to represent the organization, that is, I always want to invite them if they want to say something, because they took the time to show up. So I do see that we have a representative. I don't have any specific questions in the past. I've seen it run very smoothly. Come on up.
I'll make
Nice
it
job
quick.
planting trees too, Craig.
Yeah, I owe her $1 for the shout out. So, basically, we're going to repeat what we did last year. The reason we need the open container request or permit is because the tent is going on the street. It's a public space, so we have to have the permit to serve beverages in the public right of way. Otherwise, we're going to do everything we do, like for Friday night concerts, or we're doing the same thing we did last year. We will check IDs, we'll wristband people, but, it's just kind of a standard procedure.
All right. Any questions, comments?
Perfect.
Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
All right, all those in favor of approving this outdoor open container entertainment event permit application, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Next item is a City Hall garage door replacement project. You have a couple of quotes or estimates in your packet here. This was included in the 2023 budget for a total of $25,000. Both of the quotes are above that, one just by a little bit, one by a little more than that. Open it up to council for any questions or discussion, or if anyone would like to make a motion to approve one or the other budgets, or estimates rather.
I had a question for Adam. The additional amount for this project, seeing we had only budgeted 25, where are you looking at taking that out of?
So we have contingency funds as well as the EMS has a large portion of this project. We probably were a little under on their portion. So they have some funds they can put toward it for other projects within the budget for downstairs. The main reason for this is the doors downstairs are 30 plus years old. You can see on here on the low bid, the one door costs $3,600. Last year, Mitch had to have one panel replaced for $2,500. We cannot get parts. We have trouble operating the doors at times, so our public safety, when they need to respond, the garage doors opening is important. So, yeah, it's a little bit more than what we had anticipated, if the low bid about $5,000, but we would absorb that mostly in EMS because we budgeted a little bit less there than we probably should have.
And then I know we try with major purchases to keep things as local as possible, and we usually use that 10% guideline, so even the low bid comes in well under that 10%, even though it's an out-of-town vendor, so keep that in mind.
And just for math purposes, the difference is about 28%.
I'd like to say that I've worked with both companies, the one from Berlin and one from Ripon. They're both identical, perfect companies, good service work. So there's, just because one bid is lower than the other doesn't mean it's not a good reputable company. I would highly recommend both of them. And I looked at the bids pretty close. The only thing I could see, and I believe they're apples for apples, except for name brands of the doors. The only thing I could see difference on the modern overhead door bid, they said three different times in their description, treated wood bucks. So, and that's the frame around the door. So I called Modern Overhead Door and talked to them, and it's nothing that they're adding extra compared to the other bid. It's just something for their technicians to know that it's a wood buck when they install it. So there's truly no difference that I can see in the quality of the doors, except the price.
Can I ask our esteemed attorney to remind us, as far as when we're looking at bids, you know, sometimes when we look at bids, we do need to take the lowest bid.
Public construction. This is not public construction.
Yeah.
This is
I'm
bidding
just making sure.
material.
Yeah.
And so you could, in theory, look at another bid, but because of this discrepancy, you are responsible for the taxpayers' money. It's, I think, too great, as I think Howard's pointed out, as John's pointed out.
And the policy is anything, a budget expense over $25,000 is to come before the council. So we got minimum of 2 quotes, so we have 2 quotes. We looked over everything. It's pretty much apples to apples. Warranties are similar, if not identical. So, you know, our based on the budget, you know, $8,000 difference is significant, you know. So that's what we're, from a staff level, looking at the budget, we would recommend just low bid in this particular case, but that's up to the council if you want to go with the higher bid.
Well, in the interest of saving that 28%, I'd like to make a motion to accept the bid from Total Overhead Door Systems for $30,412.
I'll second.
Any discussion on the motion? John?
Are we going to stay with the bid, or are we going to look at the options? There are some options, I don't know. And it basically is to get a thicker door for more R value, but the door is so large. It's worth the cost of it.
No, I would just recommend the base bid.
Yeah,
We'd get them all done the same. Yeah.
Okay, good.
And as far as the R value goes, I personally have some of the R18 doors at my place, and they hold heat in pretty well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any further discussion?
Just for clarification, does not include options. The motion on the floor.
Correct. If there's no more discussion, all those in favor of approving the Total Overhead Door Systems bid for $30,412, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved.
I noticed that we're actually after the expiration date.
It's fine. It's fine. We're good.
It's not me.
they've held that price for a while.
Okay.
All right, next item is housing program review and adoption. Adam has 3 programs to present to you or explain to you.
Yes, so coming off of a couple things we've been working on, including the housing plan, I wanted to get a couple things in front of you. The first would be amending the Sanmar lot sale program. We had previously kind of tried to do that program in a way that the city would sort of acquire the property. We want to stay out of that transaction, so turn to more of a grant. Really wouldn't change much from the perspective of what the benefit is for the program. So the lot agreement, to the sale agreement would be between the developer and the purchaser at $25,000. The city would come in with a $20,000 grant and have the same exact assessment and agreement with the purchaser to assess that balance to the property if that $20,000 if they do not build a house within 3 years. So really just a switch from more of a grant project or program versus a acquisition and sale program. Concept very similar, just switches, okay? So nothing major change there, okay? So second one would be creating an exterior home repair program. This would be a $5,000 non-repayable grant for home repairs that extend the life of the home. You can see eligible uses including grading to address stormwater runoff, painting, foundation repairs, front porch and stairs, gutters, garage doors, fence, roof, windows, kind of that exterior stuff that weatherizes and protects the home long term. There are income limits, so anybody would be eligible at the 80% of the county median household income, so that aligns sort of with the CDBG program that we have, which is a little bit different. This program would sort of take the place of what we called Ripon Renew, which was a matching grant that would be paid back when the house would sell. I do not believe in the life of that program given out a grant. So it has sat there, mostly because it reflects too much it's kind of identical to the CDBG program. So this is a little bit more generous. This would give a $5,000 grant with no matching requirement. The minimum grant award would be $2,000. You can see the income limits spelled out for you there. If the person would apply, we would have to verify their income on the application and the form. And then they have a year to complete a project. The sort of idea behind this program as well is as we go through code enforcement and compliance, we often can send letters and talk to residents about issues with their house, the exterior, whether it's, a porch that's collapsing or a roof that's leaking or something of that nature. And we, Sue Leahy, myself, the police department can send them letter after letter after letter. And you generally get nowhere when they don't have funds to help. So, from the standpoint of being able to offer something a little bit more generous and maybe meaningful than the Ripon Renew, we would put this in place and have money allocated for projects. The last is the Build Ripon program. This one I wanted to put out in front of you as well. This is a sort of a reissuing of the program. We do add some language in here regarding the ability to apply for duplexes or twin homes to construct new homes within the city. So pretty much anywhere, anybody in Sanmar, if they would get one program out there for the lot sale, they would not be eligible for any other programs. So more or less, this would be sort of outside of that area. We have had a lot of success with this program. I would just say, a lot of times we're funding projects out of this fund or this program that, frankly may or may not need the money to do the project. If you're building a $450,000 home, which that is, I don't know, John, how much $450,000 gets you? Not anymore. But really, when it comes down to it, is this program really a benefit because are the people just going to build the house anyways? It's $10,000 in the grant scheme. So that's something I wanted to just discuss with the council, get any insight on it. All of these funds would come out of the TID closure funds. So we extended the TIDs for a year. So there's approximately $467,000 currently sitting to be spent on housing programs within the city. I have recommended allocations for each program. It's up to you how you would like to do that. The reason those allocations are in place is to ensure that we remain compliant with the 30% of the 30% of your monthly income or less going toward housing. That's like an affordable housing requirement, so a certain percentage of the money has to go there, as well as, just overall administration of these programs. If we were to spend every dollar, it would be a lot, as well as keeping some money back. So about $190,000 we'd be looking at putting out there. And if we have a program that is really successful, we certainly can have additional funds and come back to allocate more funds. All programs are really based off of the housing study as well, promoting new housing, addressing issues with existing aging housing, so we could look at other programs as well to put in place, but I thought these three kind of hit certain marks and started to address some of the issues, we are seeing, even if it's not huge, it's helpful. So those are the three programs and sort of recommendation. I wouldn't recommend, spending all of the money on one single thing either. We do have other TIDs that will be closing to continue to add to that fund, but, with some of these as being more grant-based, once the money's gone, it's gone. So it's up to you how you want to handle it. My recommendation, just in general, is the Sandmar lot sale certainly is a important one, because we have people that want to take advantage of that program, so we just have to change that. And then the other two, I'm certainly open to input and any comments or changes or anything you'd like to see.
I guess I have a question. You said the Ripon Renew had 0 use?
0.
So do you think that the exterior home repair program will get better uptick?
100%, yes. 100%, yes. The reason being, it's a $5,000 grant for, for very simple projects. When you get into Ripon Renew and, to get to $5,000, you have to spend $5,000 yourself. So a lot of people in those lower income that would be eligible for it don't necessarily have the amount to match to do the bigger project that they would have to do to get the maximum amount. Obviously, never enough money per se to do everything, but when we go and say, fix your roof, or you got a leaky roof, or your siding or paint needs to be, we can, with that letter, send a program saying we can give you $5,000 to help fix it. So, But the Ripon Renew, the $180,000, $157,000 that was previously allocated, that is all was allocated to Ripon Renew, and it's never been touched. While the Build Ripon program had about $80,000 allocated to it, that's all gone. So we haven't offered that program for 2 years.
Paige?
As a follow-up, I guess, on the exterior home repair program, would this benefit potential buyers in looking at purchasing a home that may need repairs, that they could then apply for this grant?
If they meet the income requirements.
Right.
So they would have to purchase the home, then meet the income requirements, and they could help with that, yeah.
Because that could help move.
That could help move
Move
properties
homes, yeah.
that,
It's kind of
So to be
forefront of
clear
my mind, so.
to be clear, that program, the Rip and Repair, is for owner occupied only, so not for landlords. I thought that was an important distinction to make.
Yeah, great, thank you.
John?
For the exterior, home repair program, should we or can we put on the list of, acceptable items, wheelchair ramps?
Yeah,
That's a great idea.
I think years ago, there was I don't know if it was a county or it was something that they had a program for wheelchair ramps.
maybe listed as a handicap housing accessibility. That way, it may cover
Yeah.
having to enlarge a front door
Yeah.
to make that accessible. It's not just gearing it towards the
We will
ramp
add
stand.
wheelchair ramp / accessibility improvements, exterior.
Exterior.
You don't need,
Not, yeah, interior. Then second, for the Ripon build, why do we have to have an attached garage?
I don't know, that was in the program.
Okay. Because it says in there, garages, at least a one-car garage attached.
I can't, so the other thing that changed with that program is it was a minimum of 1,000 square feet to be eligible.
Yeah.
We did drop it to 800.
Right.
The minimum code requirement is something like 500, so it's a lot less. But it's unfortunate because, there's an individual that's building a house in Ripon right now that's 850 square feet. It's what they can afford. It's still a $275,000 house, so it'll meet the requirements. But under the old program at 1,000, they wouldn't be eligible. But someone who's building a 1,400 square foot, $400,000 house in another part of town would be eligible for it. So it's, I dropped that, and we can certainly remove the requirement that it is a attached garage if that somehow, makes it more flexible. We want to be able to get the funds into the people hands that need it most, but.
There may be a lot that, I can just say my lot, myself on Liberty, the garage is down, the house is on the hill.
Yeah.
So it's a detached garage. There could be some circumstances that you can't attach it, or you don't want to attach it. Okay.
We can remove that if that's the consensus, that's fine.
You made the comment that you weren't sure if the Build Ripon program really did entice people to build, that they might be building anyways. So I guess my question is, theoretically tonight, could we, if colleagues, if there was agreement, could a proposal be made to approve the Sandmar lot sale program, the exterior home repair program with the amendment that was just suggested, and then with the Build Ripon program, is that money that here is suggested, that's allocated, could we have some flexibility, and at the next council meeting, maybe there's other cities that have programs to look at also maybe additional exterior incentives that maybe other programs that are working for other cities to allow people to get funds, and we just look at some ideas. Are we able to be flexible if that weren't to be approved?
There's different ways you can do it. You don't want to get so restrictive that no one can apply either, right?
Right.
All of the programs that we have here are based on concepts that other communities have executed. So the exterior home repair program is based off of mostly a WPACA program that was put forward this past year. The Build Ripon program was based off of a program from another community, and previous administration put that in place. And this lot sale program was based off of a program that I ran in my previous community. So we're really looking at trying to get logical programs based on the housing study recommendations. So promotion of new housing, affordability, home repair, first-time home buyer. Those are other things we could do. But ultimately, I don't know if I'd stray too far off of a portfolio of, you don't want to do too much or too little. It's kind of hard to find that right mix. But certainly, I'm open to other options as well from a housing grant or promotion grant or opportunity. So they're not set in stone. So you can approve whatever, or other people have other ideas, certainly.
So like theoretically, an exterior program to upgrade exterior that was not bound by income restrictions.
Yeah.
We might say that's not a priority, but now knowing that maybe the Build Ripon program wasn't enticing the way it is, and this will entice people to do more exterior projects.
The reason we have to be careful though too is that a percentage, the majority of funds have to go to affordable housing programs. So that means 30% of your income. So somebody can So previously, what we did was we took 25% of the money and put it into Build Ripon, and 75% of the money and put it into Ripon Renew. The thing is some people built Build Ripon grant that were affordable housing because their housing costs were 30% less. So that got miscategorized. So you could have actually spent more money in the past on Build Ripon. You just allocated it a certain way to say that everybody applying for a Ripon Renew was low income and met that requirement, when in fact we're now going to verify that via income and questionnaires about how much they're spending on housing. So all of these programs have to be tracked. So when we're giving out $5,000, does that $5,000 go toward the affordable or the what's considered just general housing? So we do have to be careful about that mix to remain compliant with the affordable housing TIF extension rules. So there's a lot at play. So, but the way you would open it up, you could open it up more. You could do that. Other communities do allow exterior grants to higher income individuals, but that's not generally where we're seeing the need in the community.
As a council, you could approve these individually or approve them as a whole group of plans. So you could take them one at a time, approve some tonight, approve some later. That's entire.
You're looking for the approval of the program or the program and the allocation of the funds?
We can do, I would prefer to put a number on it too. I just want to keep everything in a certain pot and know when we're running low. You know what I mean? So I don't want to. So the allocation would be a part of it, I would ask, yes.
I'll move to approve the Sandbar lot sale program for $65.
Second it.
All right, the motion is to approve the Sanmar lot sale program with a budget of $60,000. Is there discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the Sanmar lot sale program, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Would anyone like to make any other motions this evening?
I'll make a motion to approve the exterior home repair program with the addition of the ADA accessibility door ramp part that was proposed tonight.
I'll second.
And would you like to attach a budget on that one?
Staying with the percentage limits that are in the program.
But as the program,
Program as
program
presented.
The
budget,
program total,
yeah,
Total budget is
65.
the recommendation was
65.
65,000.
yeah.
Is that all right with you?
Yeah.
So,
Conversation or request for amendment.
okay.
Could that be put to 100,000? And then Build Ripon would be lower. It'd still be under, we'd be over 30% then, right? I mean, because using that section of it, right? I'm not dipping into that lower than 30%.
Theoretically, yes.
But we can always come back to
Right. You
make
could-
an adjustment
Yes.
to it as
Motion on
we,
the floor is 60.
right, as we see the
65.
funds
65,
being
excuse me,
used,
just a wait.
we can always come back
And all I will say is, that's 20 grants we'll have to get out. So it could be a bigger task. We'll do it if that's what you want us to do. So I'm not afraid of moving it that high. We'll try to streamline it pretty simple for people, so it's not overly complicated and for ourselves. But no problem with that. On top of every year, the other thing is too is we're going to review this annually and try to allocate funds annually as well. So if something doesn't get used, we can certainly move it for the year to year.
And we could certainly make the adjustment to the amendment, or make an amendment to the motion, or when we're starting to run low on funds, we could move
Bring
the
it back.
funds around, and if one program has money left over, we could move it to the other. So if you'd like to propose the amendment, we could.
No, that's fine. I'm willing to, that's fine. I feel like for the city, and the population that we have, I feel like there's more benefit in that program than the Build Ripon program.
Right.
So, I'm fine. I'll withdraw my.
Okay. Any other discussion? So just to review before I'll come to you, the motion is to approve the exterior home repair program with the addition of the wheelchair
ADA.
accessibility language at the $65,000 budget. Did you have?
There was a question raised about, the county apparently has some money for ADA accessibility for homeowners, and the concern was, could there be some double dipping? But I assume that once a homeowner gets something paid for, I guess, wouldn't that account for, that it should account for itself?
We wouldn't allow for double dipping, so there wouldn't, we would, for example, somebody couldn't apply for a CDBG grant as well as this and use it as its match. We would make sure that that doesn't happen, because we run the CDBG program. If there are additional funds that are needed and somebody finds, if we put $5,000 toward an accessible ramp, and the county offers a $2,000 or somebody else offers to make a $7,000 project happen, we're not going to stand in the way of something like that happening.
Great.
Any other questions, discussion?
And then I guess how it relates to the next, so with the next one, whether or not we're going to vote on it or not, with the Build Ripon program, but if that moves forward, so that funds at $65,000, that's for the other one, does that, that's already allocated, so it could go to the question that my colleague just brought up, that could have been moved right now to the exterior home repair program, but if we vote next to approve that those funds won't be then available in the future if we need it.
It depends on if it gets used.
Uh-huh.
There's a likelihood that, there's only 4 or 5 houses built in Ripon this year. So at the maximum amount, it would still leave money on the table. So that's based on the average of what we're building. So you don't have to allocate anything. You can think about it. You can allocate less.
Yeah.
There's still $277,000 sitting there. So there's opportunities to do other programs or hit other priorities into the future.
Okay.
Any further discussion on this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the exterior home repair program with the accessibility language at $65,000, say aye.
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 Opposed? That is approved. Will there be any other motions on this topic tonight?
So if in the future we're going to look at, because right now, again, I don't feel very strongly about the Build Ripon program if we're not sure that it's really enticing people to build, but it may be a good program and a best use of our funds. I'd like to see maybe some other ideas with this funds, but are we unable to talk about it unless it's on the agenda again in the future?
I can bring back other programs and we can have another conversation if directed to do so. We also have other programs we've drafted that we haven't put in place, so we can talk about those. First-time home buyer, because that was an issue identified as an affordability issue in our study, so we could address that through a program. We can bring Build Ripon back again, see what kind of demand there is as well. You can also cap it at a lower number, so it kind of drives demand to build a house maybe quicker. I don't know what the answer really is there, because we're getting into numbers that kind of get crazy in terms of building a new house. And our number to help do that is pretty minimal in the grand scheme of things. So it's up to you all. But I can bring it back if you would like to allocate more funds. See what the demand is next month, if you'd like.
And if you have any recommendations on programs or adjustments to...
Find anything, just let me know.
Like that?
Yep.
Or if we want to go ahead with the Build Ripon with adjustments, bring it to our attention, and we'll bring it back. Sound good to the council? Moving on?
Moving on.
All right. Lovely discussion. All right, next up is project updates and staff reports. See
Bill
here.
left.
Bill left. Naomi, you have anything?
I do. We have the upcoming election on February 21st. We are fully staffed. That is going to be an election for the Justice of Supreme Court. The absentee ballots will be going out January 31st. And the change for this election going forward is we're going to now be using Badger books. We have the electronic polling book, the electronic registration. Everything is going to change and be on these tablets. It's going to make it much more efficient. It is not connected to the internet, so you do not have to worry about being able to be hacked. It's not an internet-based system. But this is something we are going to try out and do for the next election. So you will see some changes, and you may hear some grumbles at the change. But bear with us as we learn how to do it, the poll workers do, and we get this going. I think it's actually going to make, seen the lines, right? This should make it a lot better. This should make it a lot faster for us. But that'll be going into effect, and all the wards are going to be up here in the council chambers. So this election, it's a simple ballot. Everybody's got the same ballots, so everything's going to be here in the council chambers for the election.
I have a question on that. I thought we were going to do it at the fire station.
That is something we've actually discussed as a contingency plan if we reach that point. This year we have 2 elections, and they're really simple and small type of elections that I've been told that we would be perfectly fine here when I talk to the county. So we'll probably have those this year. When it comes to the presidential, I'm pretty sure I may not want to do that here. That'll be a little on the crazy. So we may be going to the fire station, but I'll be talking further with Adam, and he'll be talking to the board and everything about that later down the road.
With the update of the Badger books?
Yes.
Is the whole county, all the cities in the county doing the update?
No, I found out I'm the first one in the county, which I did not know.
Congratulations.
It's all right.
Ruby is the first one. Not a good idea, guys. But yes, I am the first one, but I do have Lisa, the county clerk, is actually very supportive. She's ready to work with me to try and make this new change, and then hopefully it'll spread and it'll start going. 33% of the state is now using Badger books, so it is becoming more and more prominent where people are starting to use it.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. Bill, do you have anything? No. Adam?
So we still do have a few weeks left to get District 2 letters of interest in for those wanting to replace Paige.
Thank you.
Yep. So if anybody is interested in that, please contact me. Wednesday, everybody's been invited to attend Director of Public Works interviews. So if you can plan to attend, be here a little early at around 12:45. And then we had our ribbon cutting this evening up at the Senior Activity Center. It was a very nice turnout, and thank you for those who came. And I almost forgot the mayor's name, so I apologize. and then Ashton Zine, the Parks and Rec director, she attended and will be starting next week. So she will be on board starting February 1st. That's all I have, I think.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Zoom, well, can people join through Zoom
I will
for the
have
interviews?
I will have a Zoom link available,
Thanks.
but please try to be here.
All right. I don't have any appointments or particular communications this evening. Any future agenda items or comments from council members?
I just had a question for the chief. Is there, you don't have to come up, I mean, I can yell to you. Is there any negatives with the ATVs in the month that the signs have gone up? I feel like I've seen one driving
I
town.
think I'm up to 2.
Yeah, we've had a couple minor interactions, but that's it. Nothing major. At all.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah. Just want to let the community know that the ice skating rink is open. We've had quite a lot of vandalism this year. We had more again, it seems to be on Saturday nights after the bars close. if it continues, we are going to shut it down. So if you enjoy using it, kind of help police it so that we continue to offer it for everyone in the community.
Anyone else? Hearing none, at this time I'll be seeking a motion to adjourn to closed session under Wisconsin Statute 19.851E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, investing of public funds, or conducting other specified business or public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. The topic would be a development agreement for 230 Watson Street, as well as approving the closed session minutes from December 13th meeting.
Plan on reconvening.
And we will be planning on reconvening into open session in about 25 minutes to start.
I'll motion to adjourn to closed session under Wisconsin statutes 19.851E.
I'll second that.
Been moved by Paige, seconded by Doug. All those in favor of adjourning to closed session, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And at this time, we will adjourn to closed session, and we'll have to say goodbye to our members on Zoom. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
She can see me.
And the time is 8:12.
It's just,
Time is 9 o'clock.
How often do you get people approaching you for it?
there's a 3-to-1 match. So they gotta spend $750,000 to get 250.
Okay.
So I mean, nobody goes at it for a $200,000 project because the amount of work is outrageous.
So we are back into open session.
Go ahead and take roll.
Roll call again, please.
Iverson.
Here.
Stotzinger.
Here.
Hanson.
Here.
Gallops. Kane.
Still here.
Gotsky.
Here.
Sorensen. Split.
Here.
We still have a quorum.
All right. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion to accept the development agreement for 230 Watson Street with the amendment on page 3 to add the word project.
Adding the word project to section B3.
I'll second that.
Second. Motion made by Page, second by Howard. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the development agreement for 230 Watson Street with the mentioned correction, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Would anyone like to make the motion for the CDI grant?
Make a motion for the submission of the WEDC Development Investment Grant application for 230 Watson Street project.
I'll second. Oh, you can have it.
Been moved by Howard, seconded by John. Any discussion on that motion?
You were about to say, I think, with Knuth Brewing Company. Should that be
No,
added?
I was not.
No? Okay. So,
I just listed the address.
Adam, maybe you can, for the listening public, explain
Yes, so
how these two are tied together.
Yes, so the development agreement that we just approved was a development agreement with Knuth Brewing Company to take on a project at 230 Watson Street. Included in that development agreement was a stipulation that the city assist with the submission of a WEDC CDI, or Community Development Investment Grant, for the project that Knuth has brought forward at 230 Watson Street. So this would be direct action after the development agreement.
Any further discussion or questions on this motion?
And the amount of that grant is how much?
The grant amount, the maximum amount is $250,000.
That's what the application is for?
That's what the application is for.
Okay.
Yep.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the resolution authorizing the submission of a Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation Community Development Investment Grant application for the redevelopment of the property at 230 Watson Street for the city of Ripon, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I will make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Moved by Paige, second by Jolene. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned at 9:05.